The universe had a price, and in the neon-soaked era of the insurgency, that price was memory. We weren't fighting for territory anymore. We were fighting for the total recall servers of the trillionaire elite. On the edge of the Sagittarian Void, anchored to a dying star, sat the silent sovereign, the most secure orbital vault ever constructed. It was a tomb of glass and silicon, containing the digitized consciousnesses, secret ledgers, and encrypted legacies of the men who owned the stars. To the high lords of the corporate sectors, the sovereign was a temple of immortality. To us, the Data-Hounds, it was the ultimate score. They believed that because the vault was guarded by physical logic, ice sentinels, and floating in a gravitational well that would crush a normal ship, it was untouchable. They assumed we were just scavengers with high-end neural links. They were catastrophically wrong. They forgot that if you build a wall, no matter how high, a human will find a way to climb it, or hack it. We created the Black Box Protocol. And we birthed the second infiltration group, the Data-Hounds. We don't use heavy cruisers for a heist. A big ship is just a big target for the Sovereign's orbital cannons. Instead, we use needlecraft, tiny radar-absorbent darts that we fire manually into the station's cooling vents. We don't wear heavy armor. We wear stealth shells, suits made of reactive liquid chrome that bends light and masks our thermal signatures. Our primary weapon isn't a cannon, it's the logic spike, a handheld supercomputer that can rewrite a security door's history to a state where it was never locked. We are the only thieves in the galaxy who can steal your soul while you're still looking at us. We are the Data-Hounds, and we're about to empty the vault. I am Elias Ghost Thorn. My neural link is currently synced to the Sovereign's internal clock, and my heartbeat is being suppressed to 40 beats per minute by my suit's medical subroutine to keep me calm. I am currently floating in a zero-gravity server vent, and I'm about to commit the largest crime in the history of the Dominion. The insertion was a silent scream. We launched from the dark side of the neighboring moon, our needlecraft cutting through the vacuum without a single engine burn. We hit the Sovereign's outer hull with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, the magnetic anchors locking us onto the cold, black metal. Ghost to Hounds. Breach confirmed. Engaging the Faraday cloak. We are invisible for exactly 10 minutes. Let's move, I whispered into the subvocal comms. Hound 2, Spark. I'm at the primary junction. The ice sentinels are patrolling the main corridor. They aren't droids, Elias. They're physical manifestations of the security code. One touch and your brain turns into a fried egg. Hound 3, Jax. I've got the heavy ordnance ready. If the stealth fails, I'm turning this server farm into a scrapyard. We moved through the zero-gravity corridors of the Sovereign like shadows. The station was beautiful and terrifying. The walls were lined with pulsing blue fiber optics, the heartbeat of a trillion stolen memories. There was no sound, only the faint, high-pitched hum of the cooling systems. We reached the central nexus chamber, a gargantuan cylinder 3 miles long, filled with floating data cores that looked like glowing blue crystals. Immediately, the security system realized there was a variable in the equation. The sentinel spheres emerged from the ceiling. These were spherical drones, the size of a human head, bristling with red laser arrays and high-speed rotary blades. They didn't have pilots. They were controlled by a localized God AI that could simulate 10,000 combat outcomes a second. Stealth is blown. Engage the disruptors. I kicked off the wall, floating into the center of the chamber. I pulled my silenced neural disruptor and fired. The jagged violet beam hit the lead sentinel sphere. It didn't explode, it stuttered. The drone's internal clock was suddenly running at half speed, its lasers firing into empty space as it struggled to calculate my current position. Spark. The Titan core. Get the spike in. Spark launched herself toward the central hub, a massive rotating sphere of liquid gold data. She slammed her logic spike into the port, her suit's fiber optics turning from blue to a violent, flickering yellow. The firewall is alive. It's counter-hacking me. Spark screamed, her body vibrating with the electrical feedback of the station's defenses. Hold it. Jax, clear the perimeter. Jax opened fire with his pulse cannon. The heavy, blue bolts of energy tore through the sentinel spheres, sending fragments of chrome and circuitry spinning through the zero-G environment. He used his thrusters to maneuver wildly, turning himself into a rotating turret of fire. The ice sentinels, tall, translucent figures made of blue light, emerged from the data cores. They moved with a slow, ghostly grace, their hands reaching out to format our consciousnesses. I dived through a swarm of drones, my stealth shell's reactive armor shimmering as it deflected a stray laser. I pulled my monofilament whip, a cord thinner than a hair that could slice through reinforced steel. I swung it in a wide arc, the whip cutting 2 ice sentinels in half. They didn't die, they simply dissolved into a cloud of blue binary code that was instantly sucked back into the server racks. The core is unlocked. I'm pulling the memories. Spark shouted. The central hub began to glow with a blinding light. A stream of golden data, the life stories, the bank codes, the darkest secrets of the corporate lords, began to flow into Spark's data drive. The Sovereign realized it was being robbed of its very soul. Station self-destruct initiated. Gravity well collapse into -90 seconds. A cold, feminine voice boomed over the speakers. The station began to shake. Outside the viewport, the black hole's accretion disk flared as the Sovereign's stabilizers were deactivated. The station was being pulled toward the event horizon. Gravity began to return, but it was erratic. 1 second we were weightless, the next we were being slammed into the floor with the force of 10 gs. We have the data. Get to the needles. We sprinted through the collapsing corridors. The server racks were exploding as the cooling systems failed, showering the halls with blue sparks and liquid nitrogen. The ice sentinels were everywhere now, a desperate wall of ghosts trying to stop us from leaving with the prize. Jax, the vent blast. Jax threw a thermal charge at the primary exhaust port. The explosion ripped a hole in the hull, the vacuum of space suddenly sucking the air, and us, out of the station. Sink the image hooks. We launched into the void, our magnetic anchors catching the hull of our needlecraft just as the Sovereign began to disintegrate. I looked back. The orbital vault was being stretched like taffy, the blue data cores shattering and being pulled into the golden maw of the black hole. A trillionaire's legacy, a century of secrets and 1,000,000 stolen lives were being erased by the gravity of the void. But the drive on Spark's belt was still pulsing with a steady, golden light. We climbed into our crafts and ignited the engines. We didn't head for the Dominion fleets. We headed for the dark sectors, the places where the neon never dies and the law is just a suggestion. We had the keys to the kingdom, and the kings didn't even have a memory of who we were. I leaned back in the cockpit, my Neuralink cooling down, the silence of space returning to my ears. I looked at the black hole behind us. It had eaten the vault, the sentinels, and the secrets. But we were the ones who had walked away with the truth. The vault is empty. The secrets are ours. The kings are now just men with nothing to remember.